Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Los Banos Talk. My name is Justin Collins. Tonight's episode is an interesting episode. I'm here interviewing with the Community and Economic Director for the City of Los Banos, Stacy Souza-Elms, and she's going to talk with us about a variety of topics regarding economic development in the city. And we're going to get into some fun things as well, such as whether Costco's coming or not, whether a lot of these rumors people have heard about, and we're going to talk about what the city's doing for economic development. And we'll get into that in just a moment, right after a brief message from our sponsor. And we're back. Thanks for watching. All right. So, Stacy, without further ado, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself.
All right. Thank you, Justin, for having me on your show. Like you said, I'm Stacy Souza-Elms. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Los Banos. Just a little bit of what I do for the City of Los Banos. I really wear two hats. My department is in charge of planning, and we facilitate development within the City of Los Banos. And we ensure that development is in accordance with our zoning code and those requirements the city has set for development and where development can occur. And then I also in charge of economic development, and that is business attraction and retention, as well as helping to support business expansion. So, kind of have a dual role within the city, which, makes my job very interesting and exciting every day to be able to help the citizens and the small businesses of Los Banos.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the show. So, my next question is, I guess, so what is the city doing in the way of economic development?
So that's a very good question. So we have partnered with a retail recruiter as well as an industrial recruiter, but it really started several years ago when we partnered with Buxton. They are a retail recruiter to help the City of Los Banos tell our story in a way that retailers really can identify. So retailers are looking for specific variables when they're looking to locate in a community. And our relationship with Buxton helps us tell that story in the language that retailers look for. So retailers are looking for, typically it is variables like household income, demographics, drive time, disposable income, rooftop, so population. All of these various variables, traffic, all play into, whether a retailer sees that community as a good fit for their next location. So our partnership with Buxton, they have helped us analyze and determine who as retailers are good matches for the city. And then it helps us attract and tell our story of Los Banos to those retailers. We've been doing this since about 2017, and we have had some successes from that relationship and partnership with Buxton. Ross is an example of that partnership with Buxton and being able to show that Los Banos was a good fit for Ross based on the analysis that they provide to the city. Chipotle and Dutch Brothers is something that we had been working on for several years and with Buxton, and we were able to attract them. And Marshall's is another. Grocery Outlet was just announced. That is another. we have used that relationship with Buxton as a resource. And it's really an additional resource of city staff to be able to extend ourselves. And with that partnership, we have much more resources and tools that we can utilize to be able to help tell the story of Los Banos. So they analyze our market and then determine where, so say grocery outlet has other grocery stores in other communities, and how Los Banos, based on our demographics, we would be a successful location for them, because we are similar to, say, their location in Modesto, or in another community, and how they're faring there, and based on our demographics, how they could potentially do here. So it really it's a different way of analyzing the city from just your typical boilerplate, this is what the city looks like on paper. It really takes that above and beyond, and really tells the story of Los Banos and how we could compete with these other communities. So it gives Los Banos a competitive advantage having that partnership. And so that's been pretty beneficial. Retail recruitment, we have been successful with going to retail conventions and having those one-on-ones through that connection with Buxton. We've had the opportunity to go to the International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC. They have a retail convention in Las Vegas once a year. It's where all of anybody who's anybody in the retail world meets with their brokers, and really just to talk about new development, new sites. And we've been pretty fortunate to go the last couple of years. Prior to COVID, we had gone in 2017, 18, and 19, and then we paused because it was not held this past year due to COVID. But we have been successful in building those personal relationships, because economic development, if I can stress anything with the community, it's that it doesn't happen overnight. These relationships get built over time. And it's like a courtship. It really, to put it into perspective, the city is trying to show that we would be a good match, that we would be a good marriage for that retailer in a lot of the attraction that we're trying to do. So, that they will be successful, they will be happy in our community, and we are here to help support them. So at Recon, that the retail convention, that's where we have had face-to-face opportunities. And in some cases, it's taken about 3 years. Dutch Brothers and Chipotle are testament of, we met with them the very first year we went there. We were able to get a one-on-one, and it still took some time to study the market, analyze it from the retailer's perspective, to make sure that Los Banos was still a good fit. So we got on the radar, we met with them, and it was fruitful. So we have also had the opportunity to sit down with Costco. And I know that that's been a rumor around town, that Costco is coming. And not for a lack of trying, but that is technically still a rumor. We don't have any plans for Costco at the moment. But we have, reached out to them. We have been successful in meeting in Las Vegas with them, with their real estate manager for the West Coast division, and just trying to see what Los Banos would need to do to set ourselves on the path for a potential location for potential Costco. So that's been probably being able to have those connections with those retailers, those brokers specifically. That's probably been the most successful, and Buxton has been pretty instrumental in providing that connection between us and the retailers. So after we had started the retail recruitment, we then wanted to do the same kind of concept, but for industry and industrial uses, and find a way to attract those uses into our community. And so we do have an industrial recruiter. We've partnered with Chabon Concepts. They work with other communities around us, especially Merced, and have had great successes in Merced County. So we've partnered with them, and it's basically also to tell the story of Los Banos. But when it comes to industrial recruitment, it doesn't quite have the same variables that retail recruitment look for. So an industry is not necessarily going to care about disposable income, and maybe demographics isn't necessarily a priority, but transportation systems are, and that connectivity to rail, or airports, or the various ports. Those are important factors for industry. The labor pool is also an important factor, and then just the economics of doing business. And so they've helped us really tell that story of Los Banos, that we have a skilled workforce labor. A lot of our labor is leaving the city to commute to the Bay Area, but that labor would prefer to work from home, work in their community. So helps us tell that story, that we are in a location in the Central Valley and on the west side of Merced County, where we're in between I-5 and 99. And 152 is a direct route to Highway 101. So it's just helping to tell where we are at in a way that industry really is looking for, and provides those connections with brokers. Really what we find, the making the connections directly with the tenant is not necessarily as fruitful as making the connections with the brokers that are looking for these sites. And really they are they're the boots on the ground doing the work for those tenants to find locations. And it's putting Los Banos on the map, basically, for site selectors. Those are folks that's their job. That's all they do all day long, is look for good sites for their client. And Los Banos, we just want to set ourselves as competitive as other communities.
Great, thank you so much. So Stacy, you brought up a lot of interesting points and a lot of good information. So, as far as those variables, demographics, et cetera, that basically that data that retailers and industrial use to kind of decide whether to come to a city or not, would you say that since we've started doing this, or since maybe you've been in this role, has it gotten easier to recruit businesses, or said demographics, or said variables improving, I guess, if you will? Or is it about staying the same, or how would you characterize that?
Sure. So it has gotten easier, I will say. And that's really because Los Banos' strength is that our projections for growth are strong. We are a community that is continuing to grow, and what I do like to tell retailers is that we are different than your typical Central Valley community, and that we have an influence from the Bay Area that most Central Valley communities don't have. We have a stronger influence from the Bay Area based on our proximity, and where our home buyers are typically relocating from the Bay Area because they can afford to own their own home in the city of Los Banos, and be able to commute to work. So our growth is really our strength. Pacheco Boulevard, State Route 152, and State Route 165 Mercy Springs is also a strength of the cities, our city, in that we're able to show the traffic volume daily on those highways they expand our volume on our population. So one area that hinders the city is our daytime population is low. That means that people are leaving the community to work. So during the day, we're losing population, but where we're able to pick that back up is in our story of telling to retailers that the state route highways actually help bring in that population and actually backfill it higher than the volume of population that we're losing during the day. So those are really our strengths that we're able to play on. Or I shouldn't say play, we're really able to tell our story because that's really what it's about. It's all about putting Los Banos on the map. But I do want to highlight those variables that retailers specifically look for is they want to know the trade area, how many households within a certain trade area. So based on drive time, typically will they be able to capture. So we like to break that down in between a 15-minute drive time, what households they would be able to capture, and down to 20 minutes. It's typically what a retailer is going to look at. They're going to look at that population. They're going to look at workplace population. They look at the population growth and also the projected growth. They look at those household incomes and the projected household growth, what that income would potentially be. Also, they look at your household segments, and that's one reason why we've partnered with Buxton is they're able to, based on our population, identify our users, our customers, the consumers in Los Banos, who those people are. And where we're highest in is expanding horizons. Those are families that are growing. Balance and harmony. Those are established families that have typically teenage kids. And we're also high on town elders. We do have a good, strong senior community. So, typical retailers are going to look for those types of consumers. And that helps just tell Los Banos our story of why we're a good fit.
Great. I just want to talk to you real quick about becoming a supporter for Los Banos Talk. You get exclusive behind the scenes content and opinion pieces that are available to supporters only. Plus, you get all the regular videos that I do first and without ads like this one. Another way that you can become a supporter is by going to www.losbanostalk.com. Click the Become a Supporter tab at the top of the screen and you'll be brought here and you can see all the videos right here. Great. Thank you so much. And I was thinking as you were talking as well, in terms of the economic growth, a lot of it seems to be kind of exponential as more businesses come in. That kind of entices other businesses to come in. And I know a lot of residents like to think about the fact that they're like, we would like more jobs before you build more houses. But it sounds like the growth is what's also bringing the jobs, and then the expected growth. But it's kind of like a chicken before the egg. I guess nobody really wants to set up a business or a job without already having a potential customer and a potential workforce. So it kind of seems like there's, I guess we could say, maybe a little bit of growing pains, but it seems like eventually it evens out.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. So more industry, more retail will bring synergy and will create that energy for more development, more of that retail development. But it does take the population and the customer base to be able to sustain and really quantify that the market is able to sustain that type of retailer here in the community. So that's very important, and for the residents to understand that it takes that projected growth in telling the story of Las Banos, of where we will be in the future. That really helps attract. That's probably one of our strongest points, is that we are growing and we project that we will continue to grow. And for that, that's probably one of our strongest variables that retailers are looking for.
I mean, me, if I was thinking in terms of as an investor, I would say, okay, here's an area that's growing, has a lot of potential. If I buy now while it's cheap and I get in there now, down the line, I'm going to really make my money back. That to me makes sense. But I also kind of saw that sentiment in a email that was sent out from Ethan Conrad. He was, I guess, responding to a news agency, and he was explaining his reasoning for purchasing the retail area, the Canal Farm Inn or Canal Farm Retail Center at Pacheco and Mercy Springs, and he was saying a lot of it was because he sees it as kind of like a next Gilroy, if you will, but he basically sees it as the Bay Area folks coming in, the growth, and that being at a very prime location, and that it's really undervalued. And
Right.
I think Los Banos is really undervalued right now, and that has a great potential.
Right. We have definitely a lot of opportunities, and we're excited that there are investors like Ethan Conrad that recognize that opportunity and are investing in our community.
Great. All right. Thank you so much for answering that question. All right, Stacy. Can you tell us a little bit about rumors regarding if there would be a Costco coming and why or why not?
Sure. So, Costco is a rumor that they have already purchased land, or that they are already have plans to locate in Los Banos. I've also heard from residents that it was a project already approved, and they they were for sure that they were coming, which no is just a rumor. But I will say that the city, um, we are actively pursuing Costco. We have, like I had previously mentioned, we had sat down with them at the International Council of Shopping Centers, ICSC retail convention. So we did reach out to them. We did sit down with them, and basically just to see what variables we would need to meet in order to attract them here. So some of the things that they care about is population. So they look at the trade area, so not just Los Banos. We hear often that 50,000 people is the key to attracting a Costco, which wouldn't necessarily, I mean, 50,000, yes, would put a quite sizable argument towards Costco coming, a regional retailer of their size, to come to Los Banos. But what they're really looking at is the trade area, that retail trade area, which encompasses San Anela, Volta, Dos Palace, Gustine. It really takes that drive time around Los Banos and those demographics that they're pulling in. So, I mean, in theory, Los Banos would be at 50,000, and then also the trade area is growing, and that's usually at around 150,000. That is a variable that they look at. And then another variable would be cannibalism. So they look at the close proximity to Gilroy, Turlock, Merced, and how those stores would be cannibalized if they had a store in Los Banos, because the residents of Los Banos would shop obviously here at a local Costco versus those existing stores. And so those are factors that they take into consideration. However, we've tried to at least explain in our story that there's probably a market in the trade area that does not have a membership, a Costco membership, because of the travel time that it takes to get to one of those Costco's. And it's just probably not worth it to some folks to have a membership when they only go, a couple of times a year, versus they would probably go more if it was, located here in our community. So we've really tried to explain that, and also that our the traffic volume on the highway, we've tried to really put the city in the best light that to attract that retailer, that regional retailer, in that we're so much more than just our trade area. We have the unique benefit of two state highways, We have an interstate within 5 miles of us, and we have a lot of people going through the community that would benefit from a regional retailer like Costco. So we're doing everything we can to continue to put the city of Los Banos at the forefront in those conversations with Costco, and we will continue to do so.
So I've seen there was a sign kind of over by the area of kind of like Hobby Lobby area off 152 that shows IHOP coming soon. Can you give us any details on that, if that's been confirmed or if they've submitted their stuff yet?
Sure. So we have had conversations with an architect, um, but we have not received an entitlement submittal from IHOP yet. So that will be needed, an entitlement to go through the Planning Commission for approval to make sure that their design of their building meets city standards. Would need to happen first before they can pull a building permit. So that part has not occurred yet. So it's not technically official. We haven't approved IHOP officially, but we have had some preliminary conversations with their architect.
Now, another one that people have been anticipating for a while or have kind of worried or wondered what's happened with it is Sonic. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So Sonic is really an issue of private industry. And with that, they were the franchisee was previously approved for a location right behind Big Five in the Food for Less shopping center, also known as the College Plaza. Um, they are entitled, ready to go. All they would need to do is pull a building permit. However, the franchisee also had in his queue other Sonics that he was opening and tiered to open on the Central Coast. So he was doing those projects first before he was going to be building Los Banos. It has been several years though, but not from any fault of the city. It's really at the mercy of the franchisee, and when he is ready to build, the city cannot force. It's the private market. We cannot force. He owns the property and cannot force him to build.
Great. So that brings me, I guess, to another question. So, people sometimes they complain like there's too many gas stations near each other, or they say there's too many car washes in town, or too many tire shops, or something like that, right? So, I guess my question to you really is, could you explain, as far as from the city's point of view, if they really have any jurisdiction to even tell a business yes or no, if they really have any ability to control what businesses come to town? Could you, I guess, touch on that?
Sure. So, what the city really, the role of the city is to facilitate development. So, the free market is going to dictate what gets built. Private property, the private property owner is going to determine how their property gets built. Now, what the city does is to facilitate that development occurs according to city standard and meets our design guidelines, our requirements, our zoning code requirements, and our standards and specifications. When it comes to the zoning, that use also has to be a permitted use in that zoning district. So if a project meets all of those requirements, using a fuel station, for instance, on the highway, that's a permitted use. All they would need for construction is a site plan review. It's a permitted use in that highway commercial zoning district. So as long as they meet the city's requirements, they are allowed to develop. So the city is not the gatekeeper. We're not filtering in only a certain amount of fuel stations, only a certain amount of pizzerias, hair salons, taquerias. I mean, you name it. We're not the gatekeeper. If private development wants to invest in that development and develop, then and they meet all the city's requirements, they are allowed to do so. Now, we do have one use that is prohibited, and that is cannabis dispensaries. So but that is in accordance with state law. The city does have the ability through its zoning code to regulate that use. But other than that, all other uses are determined based on their zoning districts and where they can develop. And as long as they meet those requirements, they're allowed to develop.
Right. So, in other words, we live in the great capitalist U.S. of A. We have the free market, and so people will invest in and develop their businesses how they see fit. Really, from the city's point of view, the best you can really do is try to entice businesses to want to come, etc. But at the end of the day, they have to want to come. You can't make
Yes.
them. You can't make them build, and you really can't tell them no so long as they're abiding by all the laws. If there's no law that says they can't, then basically they can.
Right. If it's permitted in that zoning district, it's a permitted use. I will say, and I always encourage that retailers and industry, they want to hear from their customer. So always, if you have a favorite retailer that you want to see come into the community, reach out to them, let them know that you want them here located in Los Banos. And you as their customer would like to see them here. That's always the number one. It's very helpful to hear the retailer hear from that customer. That speaks volumes, in combination with all the city, attracting business and working with property owners and brokers and putting all of that together is also helpful. But hearing from the customer is probably the number one thing that our citizens can do, is to reach out to their favorite retailers and let them know that they should be in Los Banos.
Great. And so, speaking of retailers, um, I did a story on it recently. It seems as though Grocery Outlet will be taking over the old Save Mart building. Can you give us any details on that or confirm that?
Sure. So yes, Grocery Outlet is coming into the Canal Farm Shopping Center. Um, that with the vacancy of Save Mart moving across the street, has left quite a bit of a vacancy there in that shopping center. So there will be some tenant improvement. There will be some dressing up of the building that the property owner, Ethan Conrad, will be doing. So that'll be a great shot in the arm. And Grocery Outlet being located there will be, as an anchor tenant, will be excellent for that shopping center to attract just more visitors to the location. That'll help Rite Aid. So we are definitely looking forward to them being located there. That has been a retail match identified with Buxton. So we're really excited that we were able to attract them here in Los Banos, through those relationships with the property owner, Ethan Conrad, and, reaching out in coordination with the retailer.
Great, thank you. So, Stacy, is there anything else that you can tell us or would like to tell us before we conclude the interview?
So next week we will be announcing a new retailer. It's going to be occupying the old JC Penney's location, so a new tenant that will be in the San Luis Plaza. That will be during Buxton's presentation at the City Council meeting on May 5th. It will be at 4 o'clock, and it will be live streamed on the city's YouTube channel. So I'd encourage the community to tune in and hear that presentation. It should be very informative. And at that point, we will be able to announce who our newest retailer is that is coming to that location.
And even if you don't watch the meeting, I definitely will be, and I will report on it and let you know either way. But I do encourage people and citizens to watch their elected officials and meetings directly, if at all possible. Uh,
Yes.
well, thank you so much, Stacy, for coming on the show. It was great to have you on, and I'll be looking forward to having you on for more additional segments as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, Justin.
Great. If you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe to Los Banos Talk. We have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and of course, losbanostalk.com. You can become a supporter of Los Banos Talk and get all the episodes first and ad free, plus behind the scenes opinion and political commentary. Once again, my name is Justin Collins, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.